Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This story is a few years old, but still a solid block of what the hell in my brain. Backstory: I was a bookseller for almost a decade, but left for a high-paying MF 9 to 5. I loved my job. After I left, I still frequented the bookstores in the chain a lot, browsing shelves, checking out new titles, and catching up with old co-workers. The story: I'm in my old store. It's in an area that has access to a number of posh neighborhoods. It's been maybe 3 or 4 years since I left. The staff has gone through its 6th turnover, and only a small handful of employees that I worked with are still there. I'm in jeans, my university sweatshirt, had my purse over my shoulder and my cell phone out with earbuds in, with pants like 5-finger disc punch, the ant words, and in this moment lined up in my ears. Very clearly a customer. There is no uniform here, just business casual clothes with a lanyard that holds a name tag. I'm perusing through the sci-fi/fantasy section. I have 2 books selected already, and I'm looking for a few more. My limit is 5 books, or no more than $60. Limits. One of the employees, one that I do not know, come up to ask if I need any help. I say that I do and tell him that I used to work there, and I'm looking for a couple more books. I tell him what type of books I like, and he recommends a few good titles. We end up chatting more about the genre in general, about the classic authors and so on. Anyways, I thank him and he goes on his way, and I'm 2 books richer. I moved on to the mystery section, and I picked up an empty basket to put my books in. That's when I felt it. The finger. That hard few pokes executed by a bony digit tipped with a long acrylic nail. Then the words, "Excuse me." And there she is. That dark roux blonde bobbed hair, the 3/4 yoga pants, matching workout top, pristine white sneakers, bracelet purse, and the latest iPhone. Her husband is a good-looking, tired-kin style of a man, hands in his pockets. Me taking out an earpod. What? That's not how you greet a customer. So rude. Look who's talking. What did you say to me? What do you want? And I don't work here, by the way. You do. I heard you chatting with that other employee over there. I need this book. She presented her iPhone that indeed had a picture of a book. I don't work here, lady. Back the hell up. What did you say to me? How dare you? You're required to help me. I'm a paying customer. I am not required to do anything. I turned my back on her and moved farther down the aisle, hoping she'd take the hint. Nope. Instead, she grabs the back of my hoodie and yanks me back. What the hell is your problem, lady? I don't work here. I'm in jeans and sweatshirt. I have my purse, and I was listening to music, for God's sake. I know you work here. I've seen you here before, working. I used to work here years ago, but I do not anymore. So back up. You're still obligated to help me. It's part of your code. Say what? Your code. You have to help me, or I will speak to your manager and get you banned and fined. I'm staring now at this bleach blonde lunatic, then at her husband with a, is she serious with this crap? You know, that kinda look. And he can't even look at me. Me thinking about further tier, fine, do it. I'll get a manager, let's see who gets in trouble. I flag down an employee and ask for a manager. When they ask why, I tell them we just need a manager. The employee shrugs, gets on their portable store phone, and calls for a manager. Who comes over? We will call him Blackbeard. Hi, what seems to be the problem here? Karen, of course, starts her spewing, yammering on about how I insulted her, called her names and refused to assist her. She plays, no tears, just rage. Ma'am, please, there is no need for that kind of language or that level of volume. He turned to me. Miss, can you tell me what happened? I gave him my version, trying to hide my smirk. He's staring at Karen now like she's an idiot. Ma'am, she doesn't work here. I can help you find your book. But you can't go around harassing people, be they employees or customers, even if they used to work here. Karen then said some other foul things. Ma'am, you have 3 choices. 1, pipe down and I will help you out. 2, keep going and I will have you removed and banned. Or 3. Just leave. Your choice. Karen and Blackbeard had a staring match that lasted a good 15 seconds. Then Karen left with a scowl, and Blackbeard and I shared a small high five. I finished up my shopping, and Blackbeard letting me use his employee discount. I went to a restaurant next, ate and read. And as I enjoyed the cheesecake dessert, I wondered what kind of code Karen was talking about, and where the hell she had heard it. So I was at the park on a sunny afternoon trying to enjoy some fresh air with my baby. I found a secluded area away from the main path and sat down on a bench to breastfeed my little one. I made sure to be covered and discreet, not wanting to cause any discomfort for anyone. But as I was feeding my baby, I heard someone approaching. I looked up to see a woman, Karen, standing in front of me with a scowl on her face. She looked me up and down and sneered, "What do you think you're doing? That's disgusting." I was taken aback and tried to ignore her, but she wouldn't stop. She started to shout at me, saying that I needed to go home and do that in private, that I was going to scar her kid for life, and that breastfeeding in public is unnatural. I felt humiliated and ashamed. I just wanted to finish feeding my baby and leave as soon as possible. But Karen wouldn't let it go. She continued to berate me, and then she started to push me and my baby. I was terrified. I couldn't believe that someone would attack me for simply trying to feed my child. And that's when my husband, a police officer, arrived. He had been looking for me when he saw the commotion. He saw Karen pushing me and immediately stepped in. He identified himself as a police officer and asked Karen to stop and step back, but she refused, and he had to physically restrain her and put her in handcuffs. My husband called for backup and Karen was taken into custody. I was shaken and in tears, but my husband was there to comfort me and our baby was unharmed. I couldn't believe that someone would attack me for something as natural as breastfeeding my baby, but I was grateful for my husband's quick thinking and bravery. In the end, Karen was charged with assault and disorderly conduct. I hope she learned her lesson. Breastfeeding is a natural and beautiful thing, and no mother should ever be made to feel ashamed for doing it. This happened to me in a gas station once. I was 17, so legally could not have worked there because they sold alcohol. When I was a teenager, everyone said I looked quite a bit older. The owner of the gas station mistook me for one older lady who worked there. I didn't realize it at the time, but this lady looked exactly like me, just a little bit older. So I'm getting a Red Bull and I hear, "Have you clocked in yet?" I didn't think he was talking to me, so I kept on looking. Suddenly, this 50-plus-year-old man is standing right in front of me, like stranger danger close. I was in college at the time, but still, I was 17. I backed off and put my hands up in front of me. "What are you doing?" He almost screams at me. "Get in the back, I don't pay you to drink our goods on the clock. And put on your work shirt, we have a dress code." I was terrified. I'd never been in a position like this before. I stammered something like, "I think you're mistaking me for someone else." But with my adrenaline pounding in my ears, I couldn't even be sure that's what I said. I turned and started walking quickly towards the door, almost in tears, because that's what anxiety does. And about to steal the Red Bull I forgot was still in my hand when I got a yank on my shoulder. "Come back here." Something kicked in. I remembered the Red Bull. I threw it right at his face. This was a big 20-ounce can. Dude let go and ducked. I made it outside and stood by my car watching the door. This was before I had a cell phone, so I didn't know what to do. My parents lived over an hour away. Two things happened then. The owner came out of the store and a cop pulled up and parked. He must have been on a munchie run himself. The store owner had apparently realized his mistake because the lady he mistook me for had called out sick, but he hadn't gotten the message yet. When he saw the cop outside, he assumed I'd called him and started apologizing all over the place. I wasn't sure what to do, but I felt like I should at least make the owner show the cop the security tape. He kept downplaying it and claiming, "Oh, you can barely see anything at that angle." But after reviewing the tape, the cop called my parents and we pressed assault charges. The owner lost his business and faced prison for 4 months because I was a minor. But the scariest part was how much the woman looked like me. If the dude had just handled the mistaken identity better, it would have been a much different story. Edit. I've been seeing a lot of comments along the lines of "this was overreacting, you ruined his life, don't be a wimp," and so on. Had this incident happened to me now as an adult, I would have reacted differently. I would have spoken up for myself instead of trying to just leave. Almost 40 years is a lot of time to gain knowledge and experience to handle situations that are tense and dangerous. Unfortunately, at 17, I was not equipped with this knowledge or experience. This was a small college town. I've been in school away from home for only about a month at this point. Some of you may call that sheltered and wimpy. And I'll admit, sure, maybe I was at that point. And maybe I was about to leave with something I hadn't paid for. I was panicking. I never said I was in a ride though. The ultimate point is an adult man touched and manipulated the body of a minor girl without consent. It wasn't in a sexual way or really all that violent. But in the USA, that is against the law. And yes, it was super convenient that a cop was right there. Like I said, it's a small college town. If he hadn't been there, I don't know how this would have ended. I did not ask for the man to lose his business. I had no control over that. Whether it was because of what happened to me or not, I hope he learned something from this experience and maybe changed his behavior towards others. I worked at a hardware store 4 years ago. The store sold tools at low prices. Next door to the hardware store was a Big Lot store. I wore a navy blue shirt with the company name on the back, while the Big Lot employees wore black shirts. My managers liked me because I was able to keep my composure well, despite being on the autism spectrum. The story involves myself, an old lady, Karen, my manager Belle, and the Big Lots manager T, and a Big Lots employee named Nikki. During my time working at the hardware store, I was given 2 breaks, a 10-minute break and a lunch break. I used my 10-minute break to go to the Big Lots store next door and buy a $1 pork-flavored noodle ball. Occasionally, I would also buy household items for my family while I was there. Due to my frequent visits to the Big Lots store, I became friends with many of the employees there. I would visit the store on both of my breaks and sometimes even after work because of this friendship. While I was buying my $1 pork-flavored noodle ball at Big Lots during my break, an elderly woman in a wheelchair accompanied by her husband, who was wearing a World War II veteran hat, asked for my help. She said, "Excuse me, young man, can you help us grab some blankets?" I noticed that they were having difficulty reaching the blankets that were on a high shelf, so I agreed to help them. I walked over to the shelf, grabbed the blankets, and handed it to them. The woman thanked me and asked if the store had a certain type of bed in the back. I explained to her that I didn't work at Big Lots, but I was a frequent visitor because I worked next door at a hardware store. I also mentioned that sometimes I would wear my name tag and would be mistaken as a Big Lots employee, and people would ask me for help and I would help them if I could. I had given this explanation many times before in similar situation, but I always try to be helpful and friendly to the customers. While I was helping the elderly couple, a woman we'll call Karen walked over and asked if I worked at Big Lots. I explained that I didn't work at the store, but was just helping out the couple. "Excuse me, do you work here?" No ma'am, I was just helping out these customers." "Nonsense! You have a name tag on. Employees are only allowed to have name tags on." "Well, my manager never told me that I wasn't allowed to wear my name tag in this store, and my manager never told me to take it off during my 10-minute break. I worked next door. I was just grabbing my lunch." "I don't care if you are on your lunch. You work here when a customer says so. Also, who the hell would help some old bums if they didn't have to? Especially if they are clearly illegals." This comment set me off, as I felt it was disrespectful towards the elderly couple and racist towards my stepdad who is half Mexican. I was raised to respect my elders, and I had experienced taking care of dying family members in their 90s with my mom when no one else would. I turned towards the elderly couple and the old lady started tearing up. Despite my effort to keep my composure, I lost my temper and spoke out against Karen's comment. I yelled at her, "You stuck-up entitled trash, I don't work here, and even if I did, what you just freaking said is utterly disgusting. That man fought in World War II, and given his blank expression, I'm guessing he can't freaking hear. And clearly his wife is in a wheelchair. I wasn't expecting this racist bullcrap while trying to do some shopping. If I worked here, I wouldn't serve you, and would escort you out of the building myself." At that point, I noticed my manager Bill was calling me over the radio and that Nikki, a Big Lots employee, was speaking over the corner. Karen looked at me and said, "I want to speak to your manager right now." I called Bill over and with a grin gave Nikki a look, because we knew each other for a year and she knew what I was planning ahead of time. I picked up the radio and said, "Manager to aisle 10 of Big Lots. I have a rather rowdy customer acting a fool and causing a scene." Nikki was watching the door for Bill to walk through before calling T, the Big Lots manager. Bill asked, "What's going on here?" And Karen replied, "Your employee cursed me out. I want him fired." Bill looked at me and asked, "Mason, what happened?" I replied she came to me from behind after seeing me help out this lovely young lady and her husband. I was helping them grab some blankets from the top shelf. I tried explaining to her that I didn't work here, but she insulted these two individuals for being both old and Hispanic and saying that whatever she wanted was more important. I lost my cool for a moment and I did raise my voice and state obscenities. Bill looked at Karen and said, "I don't care what my employees do when they are punched out and not in the store they work at. However, I don't think I'll be letting you into our store anytime soon." Karen asked, "What are you saying?" And Bill replied, "He doesn't work here." T, the Big Lots manager, joined the conversation. "Hey Mason." "Hey T, Nikki said a lady was harassing you." "Yep, that's her right there." Meanwhile, Karen was confused by what was happening. T asks, "What's going on?" "Well, this lady insulted an elderly couple for being old and Hispanic, and I lost my cool." Nikki saw the whole thing. Karen turned to T and said, "Fire him. You're clearly the manager." T looked at the elderly couple who were crying and asked, "Is what this young man said true?" And the elderly woman responded, "That racist woman said we're illegals, and that kind boy put her in her place." T then said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to allow someone who harasses our customers because of biases they may have to shop here. I'm sorry, but you can't buy anything from the store." Karen said, "Whatever, N-word. I just came in here to buy some nails. I don't care if I'm banned. I'll just go next door and buy them. They probably have better priced crap than here." Bill then smiled and said, "Lady, I just banned you from shopping next door." Karen was shocked and she replied, "Only the manager can do that." Bill replied, "Read the name tag," pointing to his name tag that had the company name and his position on it. Karen then stormed off, knocking over a sunglasses display. Bill said, "You can clock back in and I will give you an extra 20 minutes of break today. It's a good thing that this dumb witch doesn't know that you don't clock out for breaks. Next time, give me a little bit more warning before I confront one of her kind." After the incident, I went out for drinks with T, Nikki, and Bill. We all laughed about how Karen had managed to get herself banned from 2 stores in a span of 2 minutes. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.